White lines separating lanes mean that the traffic goes in the same direction in each lane. And if the road is separated by a yellow line, the traffic goes in opposite directions. A median separating the road also means that the traffic on each side of it flows in opposite directions. You can change lanes when the line is dotted, but you can't change lanes over solid lines, with a few exceptions, like when you need to pass a slow-moving vehicle or if there's an obstacle in front. In tunnels, there's almost always solid lines to prevent you from changing lanes, since accidents are worse in tunnels because of the risk of explosions and the restricted access. When you see a double line, which is solid on one side and dotted on the other, you can only change lanes if you're on the side of the dotted line. So in this case, vehicles on the right lane can change to the left, but vehicles on the left lane cannot change to the right. Double lines like these indicate that the lane is reserved for buses and taxis most of the time, but sometimes also for carpooling. Usually, they're only reserved at certain times of day, usually at rush hour. So at times when the lane is reserved, if you want to change lanes to turn at an intersection, you'll have to wait until you reach this diagonal line. You'll also see these sometimes in the middle of the street. In that case, they'll be yellow since they're going in the opposite direction of the traffic on at least one side of the street. Like in this case, where the traffic on the right side is going that way and the buses and taxis come from the opposite direction. At stops and lights, you have a stop line and sometimes a corridor for the pedestrians in front. You have to stop the front of the car just a bit before the line. A little trick to know when you're at the right distance is when you don't see the line anymore. Try not to stop too far in front of it, because people might think that you won't stop at all. And also, you shouldn't stop too far behind, because cars on the other axis may not see you. But here's another reason why. Something for which people get tickets quite a lot, especially in residential areas where there are a lot of trees or bushes at intersections. If there's a police officer checking the intersection to see if people do their stops properly, they might not see you if you stop too far behind the line. So when you go, since you'll be moving at a moderate speed, it'll look like you didn't do your stop. Another thing the stop line can tell you if the street is a one-way or a two-way street. If the stop line only spans half the street, it's a two-way. If it spans the whole street, it's a one-way. These arrows on the asphalt indicate what you can do in each lane. And sometimes they're also accompanied by panels like these, with white arrows on a black background. So in this case, if you're on the right lane, you can only go straight or turn right. In the two center lanes, you can only go straight. And if you're in the left lane, you can only turn left. Arrows like these ones indicate that the lane will disappear soon. You'll see some of these almost all the time on highway entry lanes. A lane like this in the middle of the street is reserved to turn left. Note that it is not to turn left or right, like many people think, because they see this arrow pointing to the right. This arrow is not pointing to the right for us, it's pointing to the left for the vehicles coming in the opposite direction, since this lane is actually a two-way lane. When an arrow is for us, the foot of the arrow has to be on our side. So in this case, if it would be for us to turn left or right, this arrow would be painted like this. At a pedestrian crossing, you always have to stop if there's a pedestrian on it that wants to cross. You have to stop even if you're on the opposite side of the street from the pedestrian. The difference between a white and a yellow pedestrian crossing? The white one is protected by either a stop or a light, and the yellow one is not. Also, while most of the time white crossings are at intersections, yellow ones can be anywhere in the middle of a street between intersections. So be especially attentive to those ones. There's also the equivalent of pedestrian crossings for cyclists, which are yellow bicycle drawings with arrows on the asphalt. So if a cyclist is crossing the street, you have to stop and give them priority. White bicycle symbols like these mean that the street is often used by cyclists, and lanes with solid lines and diamond shapes indicate a cycling path. At some intersections, you may see some of these woven lines. This means that you shouldn't be stepping on them while waiting at a light or stop. You should stop the front of the car a bit before the stop line. They're usually at intersections where trucks or buses need to turn in that direction, and since they're large vehicles, they need more room to turn. Lines like these are spacers, so you can't step on them. So while with these you cannot wait on them when waiting at the red light, These, you cannot even step on them. Imagine these as an extension of the sidewalk or median. Sometimes you'll also see them in parking spots, meaning you can't park over them. I hope you like this video. Good luck at your exam.